Good morning, students. How are you all? Hope you are doing good. Okay, shall we start today's class? Are you ready? Okay, then. Do you remember our last class? Yes, very good. In our last class, we discussed while writing a story, we should plan mainly 3 things. Okay, do you remember? Yes, look here. The first thing is who the story is about, and second one, where it take place, and the third one, what happens in it. Isn't it? Do you remember these things? Who is the story is about, where does it take place, and what happens in it. Do you remember? Now you are very familiar with these 3. Who's the story is about, where does it take place, and what happens in it, isn't it? After that, yes, we said that describe the character very clearly. Do you remember? It is very important, okay? Then explain the place or places where the character goes, isn't it? And the last one is sequence. It is also very important while writing a story. Isn't it? The first one, describe the character very clearly, then explain the place or places where the character goes, and the sequence, isn't it? Sequence means your story must have a beginning, middle and end, okay? So while writing a story, you should be aware of these things. First one is who's the story about, where does it take place, and what happens in it is the third one. And while you describe your character very clearly, explain the place or places the character goes, and the sequence, isn't it? Sequence means your story must have a beginning, middle and an end, okay? After that you fill your ideas in a story map and then create your own story, okay? Do you remember our last class? Is it clear to you, children? Okay, shall we start today's class? Are you ready? Okay. Today we were in block 4 and our aim, write a journey story using a story map, okay? So, today I would like to tell an interesting story to you. Do you like stories, children? Okay. So, while I reading the story, you must be careful with what happens in the story, where it take place, and who's the story is about, okay? These 3 things. Which are they? Who's the story is about, where does it take place, and what happens in it, okay? So, take your English workbook and turn to page number 27. There you can see a title, writing a story. Everybody ready with your workbook, okay? And I will read it for you. The first question is, read the story about the fox and the hare. Which is that story? Yes, the story is about the fox and the hare, okay? Title of the story is The Fox This is our title, The Fox and the Hare, okay? So be ready with your workbook. In a dark forest, under the shade of trees, a hare was staring at the fox in admiration, and the fox asked the hare what he was looking at. To this, the hare replied that he wanted to know if the fox was as clever as people said he was. Yes, in the sentence we can see that stories happen in a dark forest, isn't it? This is a dark forest and we can see a hare and a fox, and they were looking each other, isn't it? And the fox asked the hare what he was looking at. Yes, this fox asked to this hare that what he was looking at. And to this hare replied that he wanted to know if the fox was as clever as people said he was. Yes, we know that our parents are normally said that yes, fox was very clever, isn't it? So here the hare wanted to know that. He already heard that fox was very clever. So he openly asked the fox that he is clever or not, isn't it? Then the next paragraph. The fox looked at the hare silently for some time and replied, "Let's discuss this matter. Why don't you come to my house for dinner this evening?" Yes, the fox looked at the hare silently for some time. For what? Yes, when this hare asked this question, the fox looked at hare silently for some time. For what? Yes, when hare asked this question, fox just looked hare silently for some time and replied that, "Let's discuss this matter." Yes, fox ready to discuss that matter. Which is that matter? Yes, matter is whether the fox is clever or not. Okay, for that fox invited our hare to fox house, isn't it? Why don't you come to house for a dinner this evening? Yes, fox invited this hare for a dinner. Okay, so that evening the hare went to fox's house. On the dining table were plates and bowls, but there was no food at all. And the hare looked around and thought, "Oh, what a fool I am!" And the fox had planned to eat me. He got off his seat and ran away. Yes, at that evening itself, our hare ready to go fox's house. And on the dining table, fox could find only a plate and a bowl. But there was no food at all, isn't it? Yes, we know that this hare is a guest, but he could not find any food on the table. He could find only plates and bowls. The hare looked around. For what? Yes, he looked around whether there is any food or not, but he could not find any food there. Oh, what a fool I am! At that time, the hare realized that he was a fool and the fox had planned to eat me. Yes, the fox's plan is to eat that hare from fox's house. That is why fox invited hare to his house, isn't it? And he got off the seat and ran away. Whenever the hare realized that he got up from the seat and ran away, isn't it? Here, from the story, we could understand that, yes, the fox was so clever, isn't it? That is why he invited the hare to his house. From that house, his plan was to eat this hare, isn't it? But at last moment, our hare could realize that. That is why he escaped from fox's house. Is it clear to you, children? So, please read it from home, okay? Children, this is our 3-paragraph story, isn't it? And what you have to do is, please look what happens in the beginning. Yes, in the beginning, the story starts in a dark forest and a hare and a fox looking each other, isn't it? What happens in the middle? Yes, in the middle, this fox invited that hare to his home for dinner, isn't it? Yes, what let's learn at the end? Yes, at the end we learned that, or our hare learned that this fox is as clever as the people said, isn't it? That is why he ran out from that home, isn't it? So, the lesson, what is the lesson learned from the story? Yes, think before you leap, okay? Think before you leap, okay? Is it clear to you, children? It's a simple story, okay? Okay, I know that you have already filled your ideas on a story map, isn't it? And by using that ideas, you going to write your own story, isn't it? Okay, so before going to that, I will tell some tips to you, okay? Are you ready? So children, while going to write a story, in first paragraph, we know that first paragraph is the beginning, isn't it? Beginning, you have to write, yes, what's the story about and where it take place, okay? What's the story about and where it take place. So while writing a story in the first paragraph, we know that first paragraph is the beginning. You have to write what's the story about and where it take place. Okay. So while writing a story in first paragraph, we know that that is our beginning paragraph. So you have to write what's the story about and where it take place, isn't it? Is it clear to you? For example, here we can see in a dark forest, which means where it take place, isn't it? Here the story, the fox and hare takes place in a dark forest, isn't it? And a hare was staring at a fox in admiration. From that line, we understand that here it is the story about a hare and a fox. Okay, so the beginning itself we could understand these two things, isn't it? So while you are writing a story, you will be clear these two things. Okay, which is that? Yes, what's the story about and where it take place, isn't it? Here it is very clear, isn't it? In a dark forest. Yes, here the story take place in a dark forest, and yes, the story is about a hare and a fox. Okay. So in the second paragraph, which is the middle, isn't it? So we know that it is the middle paragraph, isn't it? So in second paragraph, it is the middle, you should write where the place or places the character goes. Okay. So in the second paragraph itself, you should write where the character goes, isn't it? Character goes and what happens in it, isn't it? So in the second paragraph itself, you have to write where the character goes and what happens in it, isn't it? So here in second paragraph, we can see the fox looked at the hare silently for some time and replied, "Let's discuss this matter. Why don't you come to my house for dinner this evening?" Yes, here where the character goes. Yes, from this sentence we know that here the character goes to fox house, isn't it? And what happens in it? For what he goes? Yes, he goes for the dinner. Okay, so here the character goes to, or the hare goes to fox house. For what happens in it? He goes for the dinner. Okay, so you are, while writing a story in second paragraph or the middle, you talk about where the character goes and what happens in it. Okay, and the third paragraph or the end, you plan your, yes, you plan your end of the story. Okay, so third paragraph or the end, you should plan end of your story. Okay, and here you have to write what lesson you learned from this story. Okay, so you have to write what is the lesson learned this character at the end of the story. What the lesson character learns at the end. So in third paragraph or the end, you have to write what the lesson character learns at the end. Okay, so For example, here we can see that evening the hare went to Fox's house. On the dining table were the plates and bowls. But there was no food at all. And the hare looked around and thought, "Oh, what a fool I am. The fox had planned to eat me." He got off his seat and ran away, isn't it? Which is the lesson learned from the story, children? Yes, we learned that the fox is so clever, isn't it? Or we can, in other way, we can say that think before you leap. Okay, so here the lesson is think before you leap, isn't it? We understood that fox is very clever. So, while writing a story in first paragraph or the beginning, you should include who's the story about and where it take place, isn't it? And the second paragraph, which is our middle, okay, and you should include where the character goes and what happens in it, okay. And the third paragraph, we should plan our end of the story, okay. Here you have include what lesson the character learns at the end, isn't it? Is it clear to you, children? You please write down these 3 things to your notebook, isn't it? Then only you can clearly write or plan your story, okay. I know that you have already planned your story and fill your ideas in a story map, and by taking that ideas from the story map and you include these 3 things and you can start your own story, okay. So please write your story on your notebook and send to me. That's not another one's story, it's your story. So first plan a story, okay. Is it clear to you? In first paragraph, beginning, we have to write who the story is about and where it take place. And the second paragraph, we know that it is the middle and you should write where the character goes and what happens in it. And the third paragraph, we plan our end and you should write what lesson the character learns at the end, okay. Is it clear? Okay. So, take your English workbook. Here you can see. Look at your notebook, read your original story and fill the writing checklist, isn't it? I know that you have already planned a story and you fill that story in S1, isn't it? You fill your own ideas in that story map, isn't it? So, by looking this story map, you can write your own story in your notebook, okay? While writing your own story, you have to be clear with these 3 things in the beginning, middle and end, which means the first paragraph you should write what the story is about and where it take place, and the second paragraph, the middle, you have to write where the character goes and what happens in it, okay. And the third paragraph at the end you should write what lesson character learns at the end, okay. And by looking these 3 things you can write your own story in your notebook and take your story with you and check these things, isn't it? Okay, I will read it to you. The writing checklist. First one, my story is about a character. Here you can see yes or no. So, please check your own story is about a character or not. If it is about a character, you can mark a tick on this yes column, okay. It is not about any particular character, you can mark no, okay. Then the second one, I have described what my character looked like and how he or she acts. So whether you check, you describe these things in your story. If it is yes, you put yes on this column, or if it is no, you please mark no, okay. And the third one, my character goes on a journey. If your character goes a journey, you can put yes mark, or if your character not go to any particular journey, you can mark no, okay. Then the third one, and the fourth one is, I have written where the story take place. If you write that in your story, you can mark yes and mark no here, okay. My story has a beginning, middle and end. I know that all of your story have a beginning, middle and end, isn't it? I already said that while writing a story, you should be clear with these three things, isn't it? So, if it is yes, you are very good. If it is no, you are very bad. So, please aware that, okay. Then, all my sentence begin with capital letter and end with full stops. If it is yes, you can mark yes. All of you mark yes. Why? Yes, while writing a story or while writing any sentence, you start with the sentence with a capital letter and end with a full stop, okay? So, beware of that. And the last one, all my sentence being with capital and end with full stops, okay? So, while writing a sentence, you should be start with a capital letter and end with a full stop, isn't it? It is very important, okay? So, you all should mark here, yes, I know. So, after writing your own story in your notebook, by using your story map, isn't it? You already fill your ideas in the story map, and by looking the story map, you can elaborate your story, okay? And after that, you check whether your story has a beginning, middle and end. Then, after completing your whole story in your notebook, you check whether your story whether your story should be about a character or describe whether the character goes and anything. After completing your whole story, you fill this checklist, okay, and send me your story and this yes or no answers, okay. Are you ready? Okay. So, please send your story. I need each one of your story, okay. So, is it clear to you, children? So, you write down these three things to your notebook, okay. That's all for today's class. Thank you.